What is up? Welcome back to another Salt and Pauper video. Today we are talking about the brand new set, Modern Horizons 3. We have a full set spoiler for you today. So Mayo is once again joining me for our top 10 for Pauper Constructed. So we're going to kick it off with a couple of honorable mentions before we get into the top 10. This one is going to shake it up just a little bit. We do have it in order this time, so it's not quite as impartial as before. We'll see if our predictions hold up. Josh, how are you today? Are you excited to talk about some cards?
I am doing wonderful today. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. The whole set just dropped, and we're hoping we can get this out to you before you all have a chance to see it, which is probably not the case.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting. Day of the drop of the whole set, so we get fresh reactions. I only just looked at them in order to prep for this video, so pretty exciting. But without any further ado, this is going to be a little bit of a longer video because we have to talk about some cards. So let's jump right in with our first honorable mention, Accursed Marauder. So this is a 2/1 zombie warrior for 2, black and a colorless. And when it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. So this is, well, this is just like strictly better flesh bag, right? How do you feel about this card?
Yeah, it's just strictly better. A flashback Marauder, down to even the cost. I mean, the power toughness is lower, but
On par. But,
yeah, right. It's what
but
you would expect.
non-token,
Thing
non-token
too.
is so good.
It's got the same typings, even. Like this
Yep.
is quite literally just improved flashback.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a world where you get to play this and flashbag, and you're just every creature is an edict.
Oh man, I'd love it.
And you get to play like
We,
sacrifice synergies.
we have barter and blood at home.
Right. God, just give me smallpox, wizards. All right. So yeah, this card's pretty good. Excited about the non-token creature phrase, and this being a 2-drop, so it's kind of on par with standard edicts. So, yeah, this is just a 2-drop. Your opponent sacrifices a non-token creature, and you just sacrifice this. So, pretty good, honestly. Really like this card. Moving right along, we will go with Horrific Assault.
And
This
we
is
have the 5
a
horrific mentions.
single green sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. And if you control an Eldrazi, you gain 3 life. So this is just 1 green bite effect with marginal upside to gain 3 life. This card is awesome. I mean, Prey Upon was for a long time with Savage Swipe like the best green removal we got, and now this is just a bite and is incredibly good. Really wish this was an instant. It would be so much better, but can't ask for a ton better than a 1 mana bite effect for green. Really strong spell. Anything jumping out at you about this one?
No, this is just better prey upon with upside, on top of the upside of your creature not taking all the damage.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, really impressed with the power level of the set. It is about time we got some green good cards, and oh boy, did we get some green good cards.
mm,
Speaking of green good cards, our next honorable mention is a Malevolent Rumble. This is a 2-mana sorcery for a green and a colorless. You reveal the top 4 cards, and you may put a permanent card from them into your hand, and then you put the rest into your graveyard, and you create a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn. A lot of spells in this set create spawn tokens, so just be aware that there's a lot of little added upside. This is, pretty close to like a Grizzly Salvage for me. This card's pretty good at 2 mana. I reveal the top, get a permanent, so it's not just a creature or land. This lets you get your Rancor or, whatever you're looking for in your green Stompy list. So a little bit more flexible of a green draw spell than we've seen in the past, and it comes with a little spawn token just kind of stapled to it. So big fan of this card. I think this card's quite good.
oh yeah, are you kidding me? It's got rampant growth that gets you wastes for a turn. It gets you a token.
Mm-hmm.
It gets you 3 cards in your graveyard, and it gets you the best permanent from among the top four.
Yeah.
Like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
This is the right direction.
Not to mention it puts them in your graveyard. You're not putting them back on the bottom, so
Yeah.
some real value in that. Pretty happy with this card. Next up is Kami of Jealous Thirst. This is a 3-mana spirit. It's a 1/3 with Death Touch for 2 and a black. And for 5 mana, 4 and a black, each opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. But this ability costs 5 less if you've drawn 3 or more cards this turn. But you can only activate this once each turn. So I think this card's pretty exciting. The fact that it's free if you cast like a Deadly Dispute, Village Rites, any of those on your turn, because you'll already have drawn a card for your turn, is pretty powerful. Not 100% sure where this fits into a lot of those decks, though, as a 1/3 Death Touch for 3. It seems a little bit too much mana for that defensive of a body. You're never really going to want to block with it, because this is kind of like your stabilization power, right? I think you've really got to do kind of a lot to make your main phase Village Rites or Deadly Disputes valuable enough to cast them during that phase. So this certainly does a good job of like bridging that gap, especially if you have 2 of them out. Like this card in multiples is quite good, but I will kind of withhold judgment until we see if the meta is as excited about this card as you are, Josh. But what does this card bring to your mind? Where are you as a brewer on this card?
As a brewer, I do kind of like this with the Raven. They don't exactly trigger off the same things, but if you're drawing the cards,
Yeah, I really wish this was target
Mhm.
opponent.
if you're drawing cards, which as this guy wants to do, you're going to find ways to do crime, which that's what the bird wants to do. So I think there's a deck out there for it.
Yeah,
It's
I wish
also,
this did a crime. If this did a crime, I think I might actually like it more.
Mm.
If this was target opponent, I think I would be in business. But
Yeah, that's probably my one downside on this card is that it says each opponent, and then you only gain 2 life
right,
instead of you gain life equals a life lost this way.
exactly.
I feel like that's kind of just a little bit of dissonance in the card design as
Agreed.
they've done in the past. Uh, but
Agreed. Yeah, it seems a little bit strange to have the
mhm,
damage scale but not the life gain. But oh well.
mhm.
Solid card nonetheless. Not quite squeaking into our top 10. One more honorable mention. This is Serum Visionary. This is a 2/2 for 3 for 2 and a blue. You get ETB, draw a card, and then scry 2. So you do exactly Serum Visions. This card is very promising. It's not quite going to be kicking Augur of Bolus off of the top spot for the blue draw efficiency creature. I'm not 100% sure if this card is better than Seagate Oracle either. The scry after is kind of a little bit of a bummer. It's no preordained visionary. But this card's pretty powerful. I think ETB draw a card, scry 2 isn't bad by any means. I just don't know of any of the blue decks right now that can really survive playing this card as a 2/2 over like a 1/3 in the Seagate
Mhm.
Oracle. But then again, you do have the situations when Seagate Oracle shows you 2 cards you want, you only get one and the other has to go to the bottom. This doesn't have that problem, right? You just draw one and then you can put the second one right back on top for the next turn. Um, Overall, pretty strong. Not quite squeaking into the top 10 though. How do you like this card, Josh?
I like it just as because you get the 3-mana creatures that come into play and draw a card and do something else. This just kind of changes the gain life or to a scry 2.
Right.
And it's in blue, of course. But I think really Wizards is telling us for this specific card is wait until Modern Horizons 4 when they come out with Preordained Mage. That's when we'll be cooking.
I actually think they'll probably give us like Optometrist first.
That's a much better name.
Yeah, I think if this card was a 2/2 flyer for 3, I would be way more on board with just a 2/2 on the ground. Because
Mhm.
this doesn't give you tempo, right? If this was Mana War Scry 2, anything like that, I'm way more on board with it than just a 2/2 for 3 that draws a card and scries 2. Now, this card could certainly replace Seagate Oracle in a lot of decks. That's not to say this card isn't going to do exactly that. I just don't know that I will be replacing Seagate Oracle with it in my decks. I think the blind draw and then the setup for the next turn is significantly less powerful than the choose your card from Seagate Oracle, especially on top deck mode or when you're behind on board, because you're digging for an answer, and this card certainly can't help you do that as efficiently as Seagate. Even though technically you get to see one card deeper, you don't get access to the cards that you saw until the next turn or the next draw spell. Um, yeah, I think that as a deck that's playing like 3-drop cards, the ETB and draw card, you're probably going to be on the back foot against a lot of Pauper decks these days. So the card needs to play well from behind, and this card I think plays better from ahead. Whereas Seagate is neutral ahead and is better behind, just because you do get to select the one that answers the problem that you're in.
Yeah.
But not bad. Pretty good card overall. Pretty happy with the crop of options that Pauper is getting from this set. I think we have a lot of power coming into the format from this set, as usual, from Modern Horizons 3. But we've got what I think is maybe a pretty surprising top 10 for a lot of people. I think there are certainly cards on the top 10 that are not going to surprise people, but I think maybe the order will. So let's go ahead and start with number 10 of our most powerful Pauper cards from Modern Horizons 3. This is Eviscerator's Insight. This is a 2-mana instant for a black and a colorless. You sacrifice an artifact or a creature, you draw 2 cards. Pretty much everybody in Pauper is familiar with that mechanic at this point, but instead of making a treasure or a map or gaining life, this one has flashback for 5, black and 4. What do you think of this card, Josh? Where do you think this goes?
I think that this goes into a specific build of Tron. I think they're just going to love it, being able to sacrifice something, because that's the only other deck that really could pay 5 to cast a spell and then still do things in a turn.
Right.
I'm not seeing this going really too many other places.
Sure. I think this could definitely see play in Gardens.
That's fair.
Mostly because it does need, card advantage options, and it already runs an artifact subbase because it runs Deadly. Additionally, you don't need to necessarily be able to pay 5 and still do stuff on your turn because it is an instant speed flashback. So Gardens will definitely take advantage of like end of turn, flash that back, sacrifice my plant token, draw 2 more cards, and then like keep churning through removal. I think they'll be able to take advantage of that. So yeah, I think this card replaces Fanatical Offering in a lot of like the Tronbo, Altertron combo lists, and I think it certainly will find some room in Gardens as well. But outside of that, I think the ones that make the tokens are still probably going to be the go-to slots. But yeah, very powerful card. One more variation of Deadly Dispute. Another set, another Deadly. We've gotten so many of these in recent history, but this one's pretty good, and the flashback is quite powerful. Number 9 is a green card for the first time in forever. We have several green cards in the top 10 of this set, which is awesome. Josh, you want to take this one?
Sure. So this one is Nyxborn Hydra. This card's pretty exciting. It's a X and a green, but it's got a bestow cost for X and 2 green. And then it's also got reach and trample, and it enters the battlefield with X/1/1 counters on it. But if it's bestowed, then it gives the creature it's enchanting +1/+1 for each 1/1 counter on Nyxborn Hydra, and also gives reach and trample. Excellent card. Green Fireball. I wouldn't change a thing about it.
I'd give it haste, but otherwise, no. Yeah, no, this card's very good. Worth noting, it is an enchantment creature because it does become an aura with bestow, so enchantment removal is live against this card, which is not nothing. But yeah, Bestow, very powerful effect. For those of you who don't know how it works, you can cast the spell for its Bestow cost, and it becomes an aura spell with enchant creature. So you basically cast it for the Bestow cost, targeting a creature that you own, or any creature really, and it becomes an enchantment that gives the creature those benefits. But if at any point it's not attached, it becomes a creature again. So it's kind of a best of both worlds scenario where if they kill the target with the spell in the stack, you still do get your big Nyxborn Hydra. It's just no longer an enchantment. Um, Similarly, if they kill it after you've enchanted the creature, you keep your Nyxborn Hydra and the creature dies. So you definitely get a lot of options, a lot of value with this card. X and green for an XX Hydra is very powerful. Um, Ultimately, yeah, this card's awesome and a great number 9. Really excited that green got some powerhouses out of this set.
Yeah, just out of curiosity for you, what would you expect is um, the mana that you would feel happy spending on this card to get the result you wanted? It's like,
Realistically, I
mm,
think I want to cast this for at least 3.
yeah, with X is 3,
Yeah,
right?
X is 3. I
Yes,
think is the right number for
mm,
me.
that's where I was at as well.
Yeah.
So it's 4 to 5 mana,
Yeah.
and anything above it is just gravy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hmm.
Worth noting, you have to be wary of things like Force Spike, so maybe not always tap out for it, but it's definitely a very fun card, and it will be a slam dunk in my Pauper Cube as well. Green
Mm.
Fireball, welcome to the format, buddy. Number 8 here is a brand new mechanic to the Pauper format, which is really exciting for those of us who remember playing with it. This is Siege Smash. This is a 2 mana instant for a red and a colorless. You get to choose one, destroy target artifact, or target creature gets +3/+2 and gains trample, but it has split second. So for those of you who don't know what split second is, as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate non-mana abilities. And essentially, that just means 1, the spell can't be countered, 2, it can't be responded to. So, for those of you who love playing graveyard decks, for those Jund Reanimator decks, and those multicolor graveyard combo decks like Cycle Storm, this is now your go to answer to Relic of Progenitus. This stops them from activating it in response. An absolute slam dunk to include Split Second into the Pauper scene. Really excited that they were able to print this into Pauper. That gives me hope that maybe they'll downshift Corrosion Grip at some point in the near future. Yeah, this card's awesome. What do you think, Josh? Not super excited about the pump spell option, although technically you can like respond to a
Mm.
damage spell and save your dude, and they can't burn it again in response, which is kind of interesting.
Mm.
But yeah, ultimately, this I think is going to destroy a lot of artifacts.
Oh yeah, no, I think that the destroy target artifact is the relevant mode on this.
Right.
If you're trying to save a creature and then they let everything resolve, they can bolt the creature again.
Yep.
So just a heads up, it's not gonna save a creature for long.
Right.
Um, but yeah, pretty much split second, insane. Basically nothing can be put on the stack above it. Um,
Which is
and
so
then
good.
Corrosion Grip, is it good enough? I feel like it's if they do print Corrosion Grip down or shift it down, they gotta do something to it, like give it another target or
I honestly don't know if it's good enough,
make
but
it cost 2. But
I do
oh
like
yeah,
it. So
mm,
if they start with downshifting that, then they can print more powerful versions of it. But
mm. But yeah,
um,
Siege Smash, exciting card, well deserving of our 8th slot. I
eighth
was thinking of
slot.
the next one.
Yep, number 7 though. I'll let you take this one. This is another red card, and it is quite exciting.
And it starts with an M, as in Molten Gatekeeper. This guy's 3 mana artifact creature golem, 2 and a red. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Molten Gatekeeper deals 1 to each opponent. And it's a 2/3. And the most exciting part about it is it has Unearth for 1 red. And that's just the cheapest you could possibly make this effect.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, both Unearth and the other thing, right?
Yeah.
But any red deck that has creatures entering that can reasonably get this card into the graveyard or even onto the battlefield. So maybe not Kuldotha red, but a deck that can reasonably hit 3
Mhm.
would love to have 4 of this.
Yeah, if Kuldotha brought back the Faithless Lootings, this card might actually be good in that deck. But I
Mm.
think I'm most excited for this deck as a combo finisher. So I think a lot of people are going to read this as like Witty Roastmaster with Unearth, and that's not the way I read this card. I read this card as a makeshift munitions that can't be countered. And by that I mean that if you cast this spell and they counter it, you just pay the 1 red and unearth it, which is an uncounterable ability. So I think decks like Combotron, instead of the singleton makeshift munitions ending the game on the combo turn, this may be the better way to end the game on the combo turn. Same with Mogwarts, although Mogwarts does also run sometimes a goblin that burns them to death. So if you're still running the singleton makeshift munitions, this might be a better option for that if you're trying to use it as a win con. Now, makeshift has slightly different value in that deck because it allows you to sacrifice your stars and your Ichor Wellsprings and things like that to continue drawing cards sometimes. But if you find yourself a little bit vulnerable in your win conditions in your combo deck now that you've kind of cut down and slimmed out and fleshed out all of your combo enablers, if you run a single makeshift munitions as the combo win con in your deck, this may be the better option. Um, and the fact that it's an artifact isn't nothing for Koldatha. So if they do bring back like the Faithless Looting go for broke version where you can unearth this for just 1 red and never have to worry about its casting cost, and then go into like Koldatha Rebirth into a Bushwhacker, deal 4, deal 8, that's 12 damage on 4 mana. That's pretty good. Um, so yeah, I think this card's quite powerful. I think it's very explosive, and I think anything that gets to unearth it is gonna be a problem. Like this card seems quite good in anything that can unearth it regularly. But speaking of graveyard removal to deal with this unearth threat, we have our next card, number 6, and this is Thraben Charm, which is a 1 white and a colorless for an instant. And it allows you to choose one. It is a charm effect, so you have a couple options. First off, you can have it deal damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control to target creature, so it is a removal spell. It destroys an enchantment, or you can exile any number of target players' graveyards. So instant speed graveyard removal in the set that gives us a Relic of Progenitus answer is really funny to me. But this card is probably main deckable in the like Destroy Evil slot, maybe for the decks that were playing Destroy Evil, just as a silver bullet for graveyard heavy decks if they are still running those. Um, if you find that graveyard synergies or combo based strategies are really starting to be annoying for you, this is a good main deck solution to that. Obviously, this is a powerful sideboard card too, but I would expect this to probably be in the Destroy Evil slot in some decks, not all decks, because sometimes that Destroy Power 4 or greater is going to be better for you than deal damage equal to double the creatures you control. But man, the exile any number of target players' graveyards is a very powerful effect to be on an instant for 2 mana. Thoughts?
Yes, all of what you said. No, it's this card. Yeah, is really. I was really happy when I saw it. Just the exile the graveyards, I think, is the most relevant mode.
Definitely.
But the twice or the damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control, I think, is what allows it to be main decked.
Yeah, because it still has some
Mhm.
level of Born interaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, for the same reason that Destroy Evil was good, this is good, right? Modal spells are always flexible, they're always
Mhm.
powerful, but exiling an entire graveyard is very good.
Oh yeah, it is cheap.
Yeah. All right, so that is our number 6. Let's move on to our top 5. Starting us off, number 5 is Refurbished Familiar. This card is incredible. It's 4 mana, 3 and a black for an artifact creature, zombie rat. And it has affinity for artifacts, so a lot of the time this is going to cost 1 or 2. It is a 2/1 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. So this is Liliana Spectre for 1. That also has the upside of drawing you a card if your opponent is out of gas. So this card just seems so good. Where do you think this card goes? What makes this card so good? What do you think?
Well, it's a 1 mana Liliana Spectre. If you can interact with your opponent's hand for 1 mana, usually that's pretty good. But this
Yeah,
has so
that's
many
fair.
other things it can do too.
Agreed.
Like it doesn't suffer from the weakness that other discard spells have, in that if your opponent has no cards in their hand, then you also have just one less card in your hand because that's just a dead card.
True.
But this just draws you another card and adds to the board, and you just get to keep putting pressure onto your opponent.
Right.
It's excellent card. Big fan.
If is the rack a modern deck? Because they might run enough artifacts to play this card in that deck, and I think it might be good enough in that deck.
I don't know if the rack is. Was it maybe 8 rack?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's been a long time.
But anyway, if this card, if Modern can find a deck that plays enough artifacts for this card to be 1 cost most of the time, this card's probably good in Modern, but it's definitely good in Pauper. This card is going to front run Black X Affinity, I think. This card is going to be very, very powerful for that. And I think it just kind of is a slam dunk, and all the decks that can play it are going to. So, very, very strong card. Pick up your foils of this card. If you haven't already pre-ordered them, you're going to want them. Same with this next card, though. I'll let you take this one, Josh. What is our number 4?
As can I get a witness? This is Evolution Witness. 2 and a green mana for a creature Elf Shaman Mutant. With Adapt 2. And the cost colorless and a green to do that. And then whenever one or more counters are put onto Evolution Witness, you must return, or you may return, no, you have to. You return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for anyone who didn't think Eternal Witness was getting printed into Pauper or downshifted for whatever reason, turns out we get a better one.
Mm-hmm.
This card is gross.
It's just so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just want to. This is a card good. That's gonna look so hot in foil.
It even has an old border printing.
Oh.
Yeah. Once again, you don't own your foils of it, get them ASAP. This card is going to be very, very good. It's super promising. What are you excited about for this card? Give us a glimpse into the brewer brain. What's got this one ticking for you?
So this one is a part of a 3-card combo that gives infinite colorless mana and gives you an infinitely large creature, and it gives you infinite enters the battlefield effects, or enters the battlefield triggers for a creature. It involves Ashnod's Altar.
Okay.
And Iron Apprentice. Right?
An Iron Apprentice? Yep, makes sense.
Which is a 1-mana creature, enters the battlefield with a counter, and when it dies, if it had counters on it, you put those counters on target creature you control.
Yep.
And choose to sack it for 2 mana. Counter goes on Evolution Witness, gets the Iron Apprentice back. Cast the Iron Apprentice for 1. You have 1 mana floating. Infinite counters right there. It's
Yep. So you're telling me that Combotron maybe has a new combo?
I'm thinking that I don't necessarily know that this needs to be in Tron.
It probably doesn't.
Pretty
but
early.
Yeah, Ashnod's Altar costs 3 though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's mono green combo though, which is cool.
Yeah.
Not sure if it's going to be a Tron combo or not, but our next card is certainly going to also be a combo enabler. This is Basking Broodscale, which is a card everybody is probably familiar with because it has a ton of combos in multiple formats. This is a 2-mana 2/2 for a green and a colorless. You get a colorless Eldrazi Lizard because it has Devoid. It also has adapt for 2 mana. It adapts for 1. And whenever one or more counters are put on it, you may create an Eldrazi spawn creature. Um, this card has a host of combos, but the one that everybody is excited about is Sadistic Glee. Sadistic Glee. It is a single red enchantment that whenever a creature you control dies, you put a 1/1 on the enchanted creature. It's an aura. So for 1 black and your 2 mana 2/2, as long as you have something to start the chain by sacrificing a creature, you have infinite 1/1s on your brood scale, and you have infinite mana from the Eldrazi spawns in the colorless or waste variety. So 2 mana, 2 card combo, pretty powerful. Very promising card. This card is going to give host to an absolute slew of combos in Pauper, I think. Anything tickling your fancy about this one?
Any time a card says whenever in its effect and doesn't say only once each turn or only as a sorcery,
Right.
I get my juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's definitely I hadn't known about the aura on him that you mentioned, but I feel like there's got to be another one too. There's got to be some other combo that makes this card just
There certainly
crazy
might be.
bonkers too. And I don't know. It's definitely not going to be cheaper though. 1 mana into 2.
Right.
Yeah, but
Plus,
that's
that gives you black, which lets you get sacrifice options like Village Rites, Deadly Dispute, all those
mhm.
things that are going to let you tutor.
Oh
Another
yeah.
cool thing, this is devoid, so it has no color, so you can like Ancient Stirrings for Basking Brood Scale. So this is certainly going to be another combo deck. Um, we'll wait to shake out which one ends up being superior, the Ewit loop or the Brood Scale loop. Um, but these are definitely powerful combo pieces, so I'm excited to see where they go. But without any further ado, we are at our top 2. Our number 2 card is a card we're both pretty excited about, but Josh, I'll let you take it. What is our number 2 most powerful card for Pauper?
It's a sneaky snack, or cost a colorless, or not a colorless. There's no colorless in here. There's a multicolored card, and don't you forget it.
It
It's
is
a
indeed a
blue
multi-color
and
card.
a black for a fairy rogue creature. This is a very playable fairy, not only because it has flying for and it's a 2/1, but also it comes back to play from your graveyard. If you've drawn 3 cards in a turn, or when you draw your 3rd card in a turn, you return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. It's not a delay like normally they say at the beginning of your end step or at the end of turn. It's just right then, brainstorm and declare blockers, you bring it back and declare blockers. It's pretty exciting stuff here.
Yeah, this card is very good, very abusable. Like you mentioned, a brainstorm on your opponent's turn gets back any number of these that you already have in your graveyard. But moreover, you can do things like Deadly Dispute, like Village Rites on your own turn. But even more so than that, you can use this as the sacrifice bait because of how the ability resolves. So you can Village Rites this by sacrificing it to draw 2 cards. Since you've already drawn one on your turn, when you draw the 2 cards from Village Rites, you'll draw your 3rd card, which gets back the one you sacrificed, plus any others that are in your graveyard. So the Blue-Black Fairies list really got some juice with this one. It's a 2-drop flying fairy, so your ninjas are going to like this card. It comes back from the graveyard, so your ninjas are going to like this card. It works well with Brainstorm, so your ninjas are going to like this card. And, it works with the kind of leave mana open play that mid-range Black-Blue Fairies has already kind of adopted, where you want to be holding your Deadly Disputes, your Village Rites, your Brainstorms, your counter magic up for your opponent's turn. So if and when you don't need to use removal or counter interaction, you can always just draw cards at end of turn and get these back. Then they'll untap for you, and you can use them as more blockers. You can bounce them for ninjas. They fuel your spell stutters. I mean, this card is just an absolute slam dunk. If you don't already have 8 foils of this pre-ordered, get on it, because this card's nuts. Now, our number 1 you'd think would be the card you want to slam dunk like 12 foils of, but hold that thought, because it might not be around for very long, and thereby I mean it will probably eat a ban in the near future. But our number one is going to be Cranial Ram. Absolutely nobody is surprised by this being number one. This is a living weapon equipment for a red and a black. You get an equipment that comes with a 0/0 Phyrexian Germ token. An equipped creature gets +X+1, where X is the number of artifacts you control, and then you can pay 2 to equip it. So this is kind of the re-upped cranial plating for the new year. This comes with a creature already attached to it. It is going to make Grixis / Black-Red Affinity very, very popular again. But there is a lot of discourse around this card, so I just want to take a moment and kind of bring up the conversation. I do not think this card is as good as Cranial Plating. I will take that stand, fight about it down in the comments, but this card is not as good as Cranial Plating. It is, I believe, on par with the power level of Glitters, but has some significant downsides, so we can talk about that. But first off, it is 2 colors. This costs a black and a red. Now, granted, those are already affinity colors, but it is going to be a lot less splashable than all that glitters. You're not just going to slam this into Boros just because you can. The color restriction is going to be significant here. Secondly, there is no instant speed attachment. And while that was less relevant in some of the other formats that cranial plating was good in, it was very relevant in the Pauper format for cranial plating because it allows you to dodge blockers. Which, speaking of blockers are very much in season against this card because it only buffs toughness by 1. So whereas a +4/+4 or +5/+5 off of an All That Glitters on a 1/1 or a 2/2 might have made it unkillable in combat even with a combat trick, that's not the case with Cranial Ram. So you're still able to kill what this is equipped on. And because they have to pay 2 to equip it, which is not nothing, and they can't equip it at instant speed like they used to with Attach, there is a significant investment that Affinity is going to have to put out in order to attack and apply pressure with this card, especially because a lot of them are very creature light. So putting bigger targets on their creatures is usually going to be a downside. And the fact that this is just an artifact and a red artifact nonetheless not only opens up all artifact hate to targeting this card, but also it gets hit by Blue Blast and things that care about color identity. So I think this card's very powerful. There's no doubt about that. But not sure it deserves a ban. I'm excited to see how this card impacts the format. I think it's going to be really interesting. But Josh, I've said a lot of things. What are your thoughts of Cranial Ram? Do you expect this to hit a ban? Do you want to see what it's got in its
Sure.
goodie bag first? What do you think?
Hang on, let me pull up my soapbox. All right. So I think that Cranial Ram will eventually get banned. Historically, they haven't been too quick about bans. However, the last Modern Horizons, they banned that the land cycling Mirror Enforcer pretty quick, it seemed like.
They did ban Sojourner's Companion pretty quick.
And they did also say that they were going to be looking at a card that was similar to another card that was on a banned list in Pauper already, and they were going to take quicker action. So I expect, realistically, 1 month for Cranial Ram to be playable. I honestly expect it to be in Paupergeddon, but banned shortly thereafter once they see how it performs, if it performs as expected. Such as if a Cranial Plating, or Cranial Ram rather, is in like 6, 5 or 6 of the top 8, then I think that they'll be like, okay, that's too much.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, that I think this card will almost certainly be legal at Paupergeddon, and Paupergeddon will be a really interesting proving grounds to see if this card is actually all the hype that people have been giving it.
Yeah,
but I think that poses its own problem, right? Because if everybody believes this is the best card, even if maybe it's not, everyone will be playing it, which means that the top 8 is likely to include a bunch of them, so it will inflate its play rate and thereby make it a bigger target. That being said, though, I think that banning for diversity's sake is also fine. Sometimes you're not going to ban on powers. Even if this card isn't too powerful, it may be too popular and draw a ban that way. This is definitely, it was confirmed by Gavin himself. This was the card he was talking about, so They are keeping a very tight watch on it, a very close watch, a very tight leash. Um, I don't expect this to hit a pre-ban though. I think that they're gonna give it time to play. They did ban Sojourner's Companion pretty quickly from MH2, but they did let Chatterstorm and Galvanic Relay ride for quite a while longer than I think maybe was necessary. So glad to see that they are kind of preemptively telling people that they're watching this card.
Yeah.
Good heads up that at least they're aware and they're not going to let it sit like they let Chatterstorm and Galv Relay sit.
And sticker name sticker.
I don't think name sticker was a problem, although I disliked it on the basis that it caused differences between paper play and MTGO play. For that reason, I would have been fine with it being banned right away, but power level wise, I don't think it was that big a problem. I think it was just annoying that it played differently.
Yeah, but I mean, there's these cards that definitely cause rifts in the player base based on power or based on how they play like that. So,
and I think that Affinity being as popular as it is in the Pauper base will like just make certain that this card sees an astronomical amount of play when it's legal because people want to play with cranial plating, and this is the closest thing we get. So it'll be interesting to me to see how successful it is at Paupergeddon and overall the shift in the metagame on challenges when this card is legal. I will make a prediction that if this card pops off and it isn't immediately banned, that Familiars will be the best deck. Not this card. Because what I think will end up happening is that if this card is very good and is way popular and is played by everybody, it's going to polarize the Affinity deck to be one of two things. It's either going to be very aggressive, in which case things like Snap, cheap counter spells, and life gain are going to be very, very powerful against it. Or it's going to play the mid-range kind of Grixis or Grixis minus blue, so it's going to go black-red, but it'll be the slower game plan of Affinity, and it'll keep the Blood Fountains for recursion and that type of playstyle. And it won't be running like the Gingerbrutes, the Ornithopters, the Springleaf Drums, and it'll opt for a more control-y style of Affinity and use this as a finisher. But that opens itself up to just destroying this card 4 times, and really just fighting their 4/4s after that. And I'm not quite sure that that card, like that deck, is just good enough without this card in it. If they nix the blue for things like Kenku Artificer, Gearcrafter Serpent, those kind of finisher threats. If they get rid of those in order to optimize for this card, I think it's going to create weaknesses that people can exploit. So Familiars especially seems like it's going to be really well lined up against that meta. Also, I expect Coggates to keep doing well, mostly because this comes with a black token, which means Prismatic Strands is still a card. You've got access to the blue blasts to destroy the Cranial Ram if you need them. As well as things like Guardian of the Guild Pact, which is going to be powerful against that type of deck, just because you do have a blocker that will be able to trade with whatever this is whatever is wearing this, and not die. So you'll be able to kind of stonewall their Cranial Rams. I think there's a lot of counterplay here, so really excited to see what the format does with this card. If it turns out to be too popular or too powerful, obviously it deserves a ban. But I'm excited we get to play with it first to see.
You know what I think would have made this better, actually?
Does it need to be better?
Well, I mean, better in terms of like the balance or like to alleviate fears.
Okay.
What if it didn't give a +1 to the toughness, but gave a -1 instead? And it was for Mirrodin instead of Living Weapon.
Oh, right. It made a 2/2 instead?
Yeah, because I think one of the primo wearers of this is Gingerbrute.
Yeah, no, I agree. Gingerbrute wears this for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that it's a little bit more of a pain to put it on a Gingerbrute, right? You got to cast it, then you got to pay to equip it. You don't just get 2 mana onto your Gingerbrute, tap your 3rd land, kill them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gingerbrute loves this card. Fortunately, like I mentioned with the All That Glitters, it doesn't bump toughness. So if they throw this on a Gingerbrute, you can absolutely just like bolt it. Any of your damage spells are still online in that instance, so it's a lot more answerable than I think it was with All That Glitters. But time will tell. Really excited to see all the cards from this set. There were just so many good cards in this set for Pauper. I hope you guys enjoyed our top 10. Don't forget to like the video and